I might be hyperbolizing on how many conductors there are. But if you've been to some of those, you just let us know too, because it's been a while since I've been to seen that many conductors in one room.
Is that
But
allowed? Is that legal?
you know, times have changed.
Hi, everyone. Happy holidays and welcome to OSA Backstage. I am Danny Meyer. Sauce Boss is right over here. And on today's episode, Serena and I are talking to conductor Joseph Young. He's coming back to Omaha to conduct Masterworks 3 in January. We absolutely can't wait. I'm just going to call it right now, one of my top programs of the season. And I know I say that about everything, but usually I mean it. This was a wonderful conversation. I think you're really going to enjoy it. I'm going to let Joseph mostly speak for himself, but one of the primary topics we really hammered home on was the idea of the elder statesman, either inviting one or becoming one in your life. And I think most musicians would agree that at some point we found one and we're intensely grateful for them. Without any further ado, enjoy. Well, then let's kick this off.
Okay.
Introduce yourself, please.
I'm Joseph Young. I am the conductor of the program in January. And I'm excited to come to Omaha again.
Excellent. We're happy to have you back. Like I said, I've listened to a few things, so I know the answer to this, but we ask everybody the same thing.
Okay.
So did music start at home, at school, or at the concert hall for you?
It started in the school. I think every kid needs an outlet, and music was my outlet. My dad wanted to keep me out of trouble, so he wanted me to do something to focus on, and we have a great music program in the middle school that I grew up in. I had an incredible teacher, incredible program. And if you ever been in the South, the band world is intense. All aspects of the musical classes felt like it was a varsity sport that any athlete would go through. And so that level of commitment made music feel more like something worth showing up. And so, I was very fortunate to have that type of system in my schools.
And what instrument was that?
I was a trumpet player.
I find it fascinating that your dad wanted to keep you out of trouble, but he gave you one of the loudest instruments known to man.
Well, I also felt like there was this moment when we're picking out the instruments. I still remember that moment very vividly because in this program, they have this outreach where you try every instrument. You try every instrument, and you have one of the eighth graders telling you how to play the instrument, and it's a family event. So me and my dad went and did it. And I was going around each of those instruments and I couldn't make a sound. I remember that feeling of, I'm not going to be able to do this. I can't make a sound out of anything. And one of the last instruments was this eighth grader who really spent time with me to help me make a sound out of the trumpet. And I made one of the loudest sounds. But I think my dad and me, they saw how excited I was that I did it, and I was hooked at that moment.
I love so many things about that. I love that they had eighth graders on site as like the elder statesmen.
Exactly.
What a great idea. I want to put a pin in that because
Yeah.
that seems to be a common theme with you that we're gonna come back to.
Okay.
But okay, so you pick trumpet and you take that back home, but you actually you played that for a while, but at some point you fell in love with conducting. So do you remember, can you tell us a little bit about like that first concert where you decided, oh, I want to be the person on the podium?
I I think the light bulb went off when I was actually in 16. Also in South Carolina, there was this program called the Governor's School for the Arts. It's a summer program for anyone who's now serious about taking on music as a career or going into conservatory. And as a 11th grader, 12th grader, it was the summer program that gives you that intense experience, feeling like you're in a conservatory. You're taking the music history classes, you're taking the theory classes, you're going to lessons, you're playing in ensembles, and one was conducting. And for me, when I guess it is a common thread. Is I still remember the time where this my trumpet teacher at this camp or this institute was the conducting teacher, and he gave me a little bit of extra. It felt like personal time, and I just did a downbeat, and I remember his face lit up, and I was like, oh, I did something interesting and special. Let me keep trying this. Um, at that summer program, during this conducting class, they continue to weed people out of the class, and finally you get to 6 people, and it's not a competition, but we're all vying for the opportunity to stand in front of an orchestra to conduct a movement, a chamber orchestra to conduct a movement of a Beethoven symphony. And it was at that moment I was like, I really want to experience that, and having that sound in front of me for that first time kind of was the light bulb moment for me.
Do you feel like was there any inkling? Obviously, you went to this governor school, and that sounds like an amazing opportunity. Was trumpet something that you were considering focusing on before then, or was that just an opportunity that came up because you were doing well and you thought, I'll try this out and see how this goes?
The conducting or the experience, the music.
Just in general,
I
yeah.
I think that I was enjoying the I was enjoying trumpet was going well. For me, it was just the moment where you finally find something that you connect with. What if trumpet wasn't going well? Would I still want to do it? I think so. It was that community, that commitment that I saw in my teachers and my fellow students, and the commitment that I saw in myself. I said, this is something I can stick with. What that meant, I didn't know. And I think what was really important at that summer institution is I got to experience what it means to be a musician. I think when I was in high school, uh, it was a little bit surface level. I remember the first time actually someone making me, because my parents tried to make me sing in the church choir, but at this festival you had to sing in a full chorus. You had to learn a little bit of Latin too, and I just loved embracing those type of experiences. So it all started just to click that this is something that's important to me. Yeah.
So it's almost like the Summer Institute gave you the chance to see all the parts that could potentially come together, um, all at the same time. But it wasn't until, and again, I did a lot of listening. I prepared for you.
Throw me some
uh,
loop. Throw me for a loop. I see what you can do.
okay,
No.
all right. We've all had these teachers. Serena and I were just talking about this. We've all had, if you're lucky enough to have great teachers, there will still always be a moment where they'll have said the same thing to you years and years and years in a row, right? And then you meet a new person, and that new person says essentially the same thing, but they say it in a new way, and that changes the course of your life forever. And I think that person for you sounds like Michael Morgan when he essentially told you, don't be an idiot, go do this go do this festival. Can you talk about why that hit so hard for you? Because you kind of mapped out your direction in life with conducting, but in a high school band direction. And Michael Morgan says one thing, and you're like, never mind, I'll do it a left turn and I'll see what happens.
I think I've when you look back and you say like I've mapped it out, I think
Mhm.
one of the biggest things I've learned, and I think you would know as a conductor as well, Sierra. that there's no one said path. And, someone who says, when I walked into teaching, I said, I'm going to teach and then, try to get all my ducks in a row and go to graduate school and this, and this, A, B, C. And someone says, no, you need to go to D first, and then, well, we can work that out. Um, that was an important part of understanding now in hindsight, like, oh, um, this road is windy. Um, when I met him, um, it was just one of those short master classes that used to happen where there were 60 conductors and you get 15 minutes. I might be overanalyzing on how many conductors there are. But if you've been to some of those, you just let us know too, because it's been a while since I've been to seen that many conductors in one room.
Is
But
that allowed? Is that legal?
you know, Chimes have changed, and the idea of just getting a little bit of help, that's all I wanted. Again, I at 16, I said I want to be a conductor. I had to figure out how to do it. I paid my friends in pizza to play in an orchestra for me so I can get tape. It's the age-old story. I have this tape that has been sitting on a VHS for so long, and it's going to get old. It's not going to represent me. I want to go to a workshop. All of these things were, playing in my head. And uh, I was just excited that I got accepted to this workshop when I think the League of American Orchestras were doing workshops. Um, but again, it was just that 15 minutes of someone saying again, you teach high school, you're conducting Beethoven 7 like this. I think you should keep going. And that's all I needed. And it was really helpful because, we all dream, but we also just need someone to say that one little thing to just keep fueling that fire. And Michael Morgan was that fuel that I needed. I always to keep my dreams alive. And, that simple email of, hey, I really got into Cabrillo, and thank you for the recommendation. I'm very excited that I got accepted. I am one of six, which is a lot different than being one of 60, and I get so much podium time. However, I have band camp that I have to teach, and I'm not sure that I can go. And that immediate email back, you would be an idiot if you don't go work with Marin Alsop at this time. And it just makes you realize what's important, that dream. How can I pivot just a little bit and be there for two groups, my school and myself? And so, I do treasure that. And I really, really love that I had the opportunity to kind of close that chapter and say thank you to Michael Morgan, because he was the first person to see me conduct a professional orchestra, and he was at my first concert as music director with the Berkeley Symphony, and I was able to say thank you again to that. So that was a really great way to close that chapter.
Oh man. I wonder how many of us, if we looked back, would note those like elder statesman moments. Anywhere from the eighth grader who was just like, you're at the end of your instrumental rope and he hands you a trumpet. It's like, no, 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 it's gonna be okay. You're gonna get
Yeah,
this.
yeah.
To the Michael Morgans of the world who aren't afraid to be honest with you. The problem I wonder is how many people don't listen because their fear is greater than their capacity to to go for it. And and that must have still been even with Michael, I imagine that must have still been hard to risk what you felt like was your job versus your career. And yet studying with Marin obviously was a huge huge step for you as well. So like, can you talk a little bit about what doors that opened for you or what you still carry from having worked with both Michael and Marin now as a professional?
Um, I think the biggest thing, yeah, you're just hearing that question and everything you're talking about, that type of mentorship that takes um, it is easy, like you said, that to complain that people, or not complain, but realize or wonder, are they actually listening to me? Are they actually heeding the advice? And I think that's something, when I fast forward now, that's something I take away from all of my mentors, is that they're not afraid to give, they work so hard to give you all the tools. Um, but they're not asking for anything in return. They don't know if you're going to take it all. They don't know if you're going to listen to it all. And for me, I take that uh, into consideration now, fast forwarding to try to be that model of a mentor and a leader in the classroom, the concert hall, and in my performances, because I want to feel trusted and welcomed and part of their work, whether it almost feels whether they want me there or not. You take what you can, you take what you need for the moment. But what's also really wonderful about having that sense of understanding in that leadership is it stays with the person even when they don't realize it. I mean, I realize sometimes when I watch Marin teach now, she's saying things that she told to me, and there are things that I remember forgetting about, but it's already there. I remember working with orchestras as an assistant conductor, and musicians would say something to me, and I didn't know what they meant until I left many years ago and realized, oh, that's how you breathe with an orchestra. So as young conductors, you have to give them the space to fail, to figure it out for themselves. But as mentors, we try to figure out how to give them as many tools that can stay in their mind, because it will be uncovered later.
I love that. I love that so much. I want to keep going in this direction, even though I also genuinely want someone to explain that the time-honored tradition of paying people in pizza to
Hey,
we did it at school. I was part of a number of orchestras that I was either paid in either pizza or beer and or both.
right.
It's a rite of passage. But okay, so you went and studied with Marin, and then you have worked with her in this capacity where you are both operating as teachers and working with young conductors. But the other thing that you are doing that I notice Marin does, and I'm curious if this is where you've always been or if you watched her program, especially if you're starting in a place like Cabrillo with her,
Mm.
which is all about contemporary music. You are such an adventurous programmer. It's really fun to watch and to look at your programs because you're always doing something out of the box, even with traditional rep. You're always trying something, or the rep that you're doing is not traditional at all. Where did that start? Have you always been on that adventurous bent, or have you seen other conductors do it and think, oh, I want to see what they're going for?
Um, I I think a little bit of both. I kind of don't think of myself as an adventurous person.
No?
No. I don't think that is the direction I imagined for myself, but I am proud of it. I am proud of being the work that I've done, doing all the premieres, and really uh I don't like saying thinking about the outside of the box, but having the trying to create those risks. But I would say it is not only about what influenced on the programming that I've witness. Yes, I've seen the American conductors who are really keen on keeping music alive. Not only with Cabrillo, but I loved working in Atlanta with the Atlanta Symphony, and hearing the philosophies around why Robert Spano believes in music. And I think I align with those things because it's consistent. I want to keep the music alive. I want music to be taken seriously. I don't want it to be static. And I think that naturally opens doors to premieres. Opens doors to collaborations with others, because if we keep it static, uh, um, I don't see us continuing to move classical music forward. So I don't know if adventurous, but it's a live piece of art that moves people, and I want to make sure that we continue to challenge that in the 21st century.
I have a little like very specific question with that, and with your program that you're doing here in Omaha. The first piece, Faun, as you know, is a very big. It's always on auditions and things like that. It's a challenge. It's a piece a lot of people know. It's in competitions, and you're speaking of keeping things fresh and music in the 21st century. Is there a certain way that you approach a kind of very standard piece like Faun? Do you find, in terms of keeping things fresh, I know there are certain conductors that like to look at it like a contemporary piece of music, very, very contemporary, and then others that say, well, I'm really going to focus on the French part of it or the more historical context side of it and trying to get something very stylistic out of it. Is there a way that you are approaching or that you like approaching a piece like that?
Well, I think it also, what one of the approaches that you're saying is like you are mentioning that people can change their approach in a performance. One week they may want to really explore the modernness of it. Another week they may want to explore the French quality of it. And I think I'm the same way. And what really helps define that is what's around it. What's the conversation around this concert that I'm doing? And, to me, I really wanted to start this French palette. It's not blank. I do love, I think Boulez said that Faun is going to change the modern landscape, modern music. That's one of what's inspired by it. It's not one of those. I think someone asked me if it was a sleeper piece. It's not. It's not a sleeper piece. It's one of those pieces that actually everyone said, this is modern, this is new, but something about music is about to change. This is that moment. Everyone, you could just imagine everyone in the audience felt something's changing. Something magical is about to happen. What I love about this, it makes you lean in. It makes you welcome this conversation that we're having around music. And for me, that takes in the atmosphere of what Debussy does. But it also wants you to hear that and juxtapose that with the saxophone concerto. So I don't know if that answers your question, but I feel like it in this concert, that transparency and atmosphere of Debussy next to the piano, the saxophone concerto, that's kind of rooted in jazz and contemporary music, is a conversation about lineage. It's a conversation about that line. So I'm excited to explore that. Even when I'm studying now, like it's not. It makes the study session, as a conductor, even more refreshing. You're like, yes, Debussy had a Faun. We see that in auditions. We see that here. It's a hard piece. It's full of color, but it's so interesting when you start studying it again and you experience a color a different way. And I think the concert that you program helps define that.
I
I swear. Go ahead.
No, what I just wanted to say that's such a thoughtful answer, and I love the little glimpse that we get into your conception of the program as a whole, and these kinds of like what you're really thinking about what the audience is going to experience, and the kind of we do pre-concert talks before programs, and absolutely love to continue this idea of what we can help the audience think about as they are going through. And I would love to, if Danny you'd like to go, but how then the first half ties into the second half, as well as and Prokofiev, and maybe your experiences and thoughts of that.
I think two big gestures. The concert's two big gestures. We have this first one that is, it's almost like you're inviting three people to a dinner party at a round table. You have someone who sets the mood, who's hosting the party, Debussy. You have someone who tries to be the life of the party, and you have the drunk uncle who wants to blow down the roof off the hall. And for me, I think of those big gestures. You get those type of individuals. I'm sorry if I'm not PC here.
No, that's fantastic. Every holiday party needs a drunk
Exactly.
uncle that is responsible for most of the shenanigans. Okay, so keep going.
but I enjoy creating that menu. So we have these two big gestures, and the second half for me is just about energy. The piece really blows the roof off of the hall. It's the frenzy of it all, but the drama of it all. Someone who is able to show that depth, um, um, and make us listen. So
I promise. So when I put in the questions, is Debussy the sleeper hit? I meant more in the, is it the Jason Bourne of this program where it's the sleeper cell of it, it awakens something in you. And I think I
yeah,
think that's exactly what you said. Yeah.
yeah,
Because it is such it's so supremely magical and it gets you every time. I think there's one of the reasons why it's probably on auditions is not just because it's hard and it's colorful, but rather it's like, well,
what?
what could you do with it? Could you actually capture that? And I feel like Prokofiev is actually in color wise is the same because he has this extraordinary range of emotions that he takes us through. And for the orchestra, Prokofiev is a warhorse, but for the audience, except for his ballets, he might not be so much. So I'm curious. You talk about this drunk uncle at the party. It's like, okay, so how do we make the drunk uncle at the party? How do we get the audience familiar with him before we kick him off?
Yeah, it's sometimes forgotten on us that Prokofiev is not. It is a war horse for us as musicians and anyone involved, but it is not as recognized it to audiences. But I love the drive and the drama of Prokofiev so much that I mean I want to explore even more of if his music's in his symphonies. You know, when I think of Prokofiev 5, I don't want to go on to a pre-concert talk,
Do
Um,
it,
you
do
know,
it, do.
when we think of Prokofiev 5 and being written during wartime, um, and then this man says it's a hymn of free and it's a hymn of free and happy man, someone who during hard times can find a little bit of human and optimism. A world that's messy, who's able to kind of feel and experience that. You know, when I think of each movement, when we when I look at each movement, we have the first movement to me is this dignified character that is still in the background, blurred in the background is this life that is under a lot of pressure, that's strained, who's trying to find their place. Um, the second movement for me is so nervous, such a nervous energy. It's brittle, but it still has a lot of confidence. And someone who's forced to smile when everything else is going wrong around them. And I feel like I do that every day. And you just stand there and just kind of take it in because, you know, you're finding the optimism in life. Um, the third movement is just grief. It feels like, uh, it feels like waves of grief that wants to be poured out, but even in the loudest moments, it still doesn't feel like it's being true to that grief. It's it's restraining itself just a little bit more. And for me, the fourth movement is a lot of joy, knowing there is something better out there, but in spite of. Life is messy, but Prokofius understands that, but tells us that we can be a happy man. And I just think that's so strong, emotional, you know, that are, as a listener, if you can find that, I don't think you understand Prokofiev, you understand a little bit more about yourself.
Love that so much. The first time I got to play this piece, I remember the fourth movement took me completely by surprise. Because I didn't used to listen to works before we played them, which is a big mistake in a lot of ways. It's more of a surprise that way, but you should definitely listen to a recording before you tackle something. But getting to play the fourth movement, you get past this devastating third, and then suddenly that zany clarinet solo kicks off, and it's like a kid on his bike with the brakes cut, and you're not quite sure what's going to happen to him, but like just this exhilarating ride the whole time.
Right.
And
I actually this time around, like re-exploring the piece, I'm actually starting. I have to start. I started with the last movement because it is because of that. I'm like, man, I don't know how he got here, but I just need to understand what's going on here. You know, the zany clarinet. To me, it is that uh, quartet of cellos that turns into this. I'm going to use zany too, but the zany viola, you know, rhythmic pattern. Like, how do I laugh at this on the inside, but make it serious? You know, it is one of those moments. Like, how do we transform this whole demeanor in a split of a second? And I just love it. And then the ending, the clockwork of it all. It feels like something is about to fall apart, but it doesn't. And you know, we have this theme that keeps telling us, no, we are here. Is this phrase in 5? Is this in 3? No, we're here. It's just fun.
it's the best. It's the best. I'm so glad we're doing it. It's the best way to kick off the year. I it's there's I okay, I will try to keep my game face on
No,
stage. I will be laughing my internally, I'll be laughing my butt off
yeah.
the entire fourth movement. Oh, I want to circle back really quickly to the Connaissance, the concerto, and this is this is especially special because your brother Robert is our soloist for this. And would love to know how much of his interpretation has changed your interpretation of the concerto. Or did you start studying it together, or did you kind of like lean into what he was bringing first as you started working on this?
Should I say the older brother slash conductor answer? Even
Yes.
though I'm the older brother, I'm in
And then
charge.
the real answer.
Yeah, I'm in charge. No, I'm the older and supposedly wiser brother. Uh, but I'm also there to support him, and you have to think of any other soloist. Their interpretation really shapes the work. They've lived inside the work in ways that I won't. My job is to listen and to build a shared vision, and it's that open communication that creates a great partnership with any soloist. But I have my brother, so there is a faster trust that you have than you don't
I
have with.
hope so.
Yeah, me too. Are you talking to him? Let's see if he's okay.
I next week, I
Next
think
week,
we're talking.
you ask him if he trusts me, and we'll compare notes. But it's probably more the family diplomacy uh, plays out, but the music making is so special that that collaborative connection. Um, you can't replicate that. I just feel so lucky that I have a brother who introduced me to this piece, and we have the opportunity to make music together. So I'm really looking forward to it.
we I am always interested in the sibling musician dynamics because my brother and sister and I would play Christmas trios together at this time of year. And inevitably rehearsal would be 2 hours of fighting and then a half an hour of good rehearsal once we'd all gotten it out of our systems. Um, but the idea of collaborating again as adults is something that is I imagine we would lapse right back to where we were when we were, 12 and 9 and 14, right? And so the fact that you two have this ability not only to want to work together, but to work together really well must feel really special, I would hope.
No, yeah, it really does. And I mean, and we're both type of people that our demeanors are a little bit dry. I do remember our first time, everyone was wondering what's going to be the dynamic between the conductor and their brother. But you can't tell. You really can't. We keep our civil sibling connection really hidden sometimes in a funny way. I don't know. We're yeah. I'll say that.
You probably, yes, for like your own sake, it's like, all right, we can rib each other after the fact,
Right.
but as we both walk on stage. Okay, excellent.
Yeah.
Um, Final question, and we ask everybody this. So
But this is
you know,
quite unique
Uh,
because you have actually tried all the instruments
mm,
before many, many years ago. Maybe not all the instruments of the orchestra, but
mhm.
right. Right.
You have childhood trauma of trying most of the instruments and being able to make sounds on most of them. So, okay, you get 30 minutes on stage. All instruments and positions are available to you, and there are no consequences. What are you trying?
Oh, what instrument am I trying? Is that the
Hmm.
question?
That's the question. And you get 30 whole minutes.
I can only try one.
Yes.
Only try one instrument.
Hmm.
Can percussion just be one instrument?
Yes.
So percussion, I can just have a field day.
yeah.
Yeah, you can like I just won the lottery, go down the line, hit all the things, but where do you what do you think you would hit the most?
Well, I would want some strange instruments out there. First, I want the Mahler hammer out there. I do want. I would go to the timpani. I have hard coordination on playing the cymbals, so I would just kind of do my own practice session in trying to play the cymbal. What's the excerpt? Is it from? I don't remember the excerpt. That's really, really intense. Uh, I would do that. I want the Berlioz bells on stage, not off stage. I want it on stage, and I'm probably gonna just let it rip. I just want to hear how big that is. Um,
You want bass drum for Prokofiev 3 so you can play that monster solo, probably.
yeah, but I,
Never
I
mind.
can do that anytime. I feel like I can do that anytime. I'm just trying to get. I just want to try some of those the weird instruments that they bring out sometimes.
Oh,
I
it's the
don't.
bucket. You want all the bucket list items. You want,
Yeah,
yeah.
I do want to
Oh,
do the solo in Sorcerer's Apprentice on the not the Glockenspiel uh because the it's so the what is the word I'm looking for? The control that they have to do to do that. It's always mind-boggling, and I just want to stay out of the way while they do it. That and the Firebird excerpt, I they're both hard. The Firebird and the excerpt on the xylophone and the Porky and Bess. I've tried the Porky and Bess one. I just can't do it. It's hard. I would just have a field day in percussion if you allow if
I love that.
yeah 30 minutes. I 30 minutes is not a lot of time. So
You could do some real damage though in 30
yeah,
minutes.
yeah, I
You
think
could hit
so.
that the Mahler hammer quite a few times in 30 minutes.
But there's part of me that says I want to try. I just want the experience, but also to be technically proficient. But that's not gonna happen. But I'm gonna challenge myself to be good.
We'll have our principal percussion put together an excerpt list for you
Okay.
so that you can so when you finally get this opportunity, you're like, all right, I'm gonna spend 10 minutes on Sorcerer's Apprentice, and I'm gonna move on to Porgy and Bess, and then I'm gonna move on to Mahler Hammer, and then great, great. I love it. Joseph, thank you so, so much. This was a lot of fun.
Thank you for having me. I'm looking forward to being there.